Hello everybody, welcome to my channel. My name is Caro. I love to read, and what I do in this space is just to share recommendations, book reviews and some opinions about them. So hope you like it. Today I'm gonna talk about this book here, Circe by Madeline Miller, which is, I hope you can see it from there. It's a book, I know I'm late. This book was from 2018, if I'm right, 2019, so very long ago, in the time that we didn't even thought about what a pandemic was, but I'm still catching up. I just read it and it's a really good book, so I want to talk about it. But first, let me make a little pause, commercial pause, to let you know, if you like my content, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel so you get notifications when I upload a new video, but also that way you help me to keep creating these reviews in case you like them only, of course. And let's go back to the topic. So this is a book, again, I really hope you can see it, I'm not so sure, but this is a book about Greek mythology. I hope it's the exact term, I don't know, but then I need to do two disclaimers. Number one, I'm not gonna give specific spoilers, but I'm gonna give my opinion on the book. So if you don't like to be influenced by it when you read it, you can skip this video and we see each other in the next one. That's the first one. And the second announcement is, I forgot what the second announcement was. Oh yeah, okay. So I'm not an expert on Greek mythology. Mythology? I don't even know if it's the right term in English, but I'm not an expert. However, I kind of know. I did my research, but I'm not like the person you would go to ask about Greek mythology. However, I have some opinions about it and I think that's right. You can always not be like agree with me, that's okay. That's what this space is for. So that being said, don't judge me too hard. I'm just applying, I have a bias there, of course, because I'm reading everything with this kind of feminist light, so a lot of things might be a little biased, but let's start and then you tell me how biased I am. The point is, again, it's not a spoiler because Circe's myth, it's like not super famous maybe, but it's known. It's not something you didn't know at all. And the purpose of this novel was, in general terms, and this is my personal opinion, but I'm sure a lot of people will agree with me, Greek mythology is quite misogynistic. It's not very friendly about women. So, and that's, I mean, that's the truth. I'm not saying, this is not probably just an opinion, it's like there's a lot of facts. If you read all the myths, it's boys that they really had some hate against women, or if not hate, they totally didn't believe we had a lot of things to put on the table. So that's of course reflected in their myths. And yeah, Circe's story is one of them, but there's a lot. Like in Greek mythology, there are a few roles women can hold. Number one, they were the crazy role, like people who's hysteric and they don't think, they just are crazy and crying and screaming all the time. That's one role. Second role was the submissive, loyal woman who was there orbitating around the men. And the third one, sorry, was that horrible woman who was the cause of all the problems and all the wars, and like that's the kind of roles, basically, the boxes that you find in Greek mythology. There are not so many more. So what Madeline Miller tried to do in this novel was to kind of switch a little bit the path and change the light. So the Greek myths are always like highlighting the huge the huge stories, the big achievements of men, and the women, as I mentioned, they are always second roles, and they are not necessarily like very equal to men in that sense. Of course, like I know I should not be comparing gender equality in that part of story, but I'm telling you because the experiment Madeline Miller wants to do is very interesting. So we have the Greek mythology, which I already told you what is it about, and then what Madeline Miller says is, okay, so the story was always told by men, and that's why women are always like orbitating, kind of floating, nobody cares about them, they are just the cause of all the problems. So why don't I write a story in which the light, the highlight, it's on the women, and we hear her part of the story. So I think just by that, like, it's a really interesting experiment to do, and of course to read. And then she picked up Circe, which is a myth. Circe appears in different stories of the Greek mythology. However, the most known is the Odyssey, with oh my god, I don't know the name in English, but in Spanish is Homero, the guy from the Odyssey, the guy who is the leader of the boats, and it's like for years on the sea trying to come back home. That guy I'm talking about. And here you can see what, I'm not an expert on these topics, but you kind of know who am I talking about, and otherwise you can easily Google it. It's very known. That's why I mean it's not a spoiler, but okay, let's continue. So she was very known for the myth in which Homero is this guy who, after the War of Troy, he wants to come back home, but to do that, like, he has to stay years on the sea because he has a lot of trouble and obstacles to overcome. So in one of those years that he was away trying to come back home, he lands in Circe's island. And Circe was a witch, semigod, someone that was not completely human but not completely magical, and she was living there in the island. And the myth says that she was turning men into pigs, because that's what we do, women, we're crazy, and she was just using her magic to turn men into pigs. So Homero arrives with his group of men, and some of them land. Homero stays in the boat. Some of them land, and then they get to Circe's house. Circe feeds them, but then she turns them into pigs. One escapes, goes to Homero. Homero comes back to say, like, what happened to my men? And of course he's such a virtuous man that he convinces Circe to turn them into humans again. Circe falls in love with Homero, and Homero decides to stay in the island 1 year, because I assume he was also kind of in love with Circe, whatever that means for Greek Greek male roles. So, important to say, so Homero was on his way home, where he had a wife and a son waiting for him. So the wife was called Penelope in Spanish, and probably this story you know it because I feel like it's more known than the rest of the Odyssey. But Penelope is this woman who is waiting for Homero to come back, but he takes years. So there's a lot of, and she was like the queen of the area there. I don't remember the names, but she's the queen. So she has to stay in power, right? And then there are all these men who wants to marry her to, of course, become kings. And then but she still believes that his husband is out there and that he will come back, because of course, like, it's very long ago, so there was no way to know if your husband was alive at all until if one day he appears at the door or not. So she totally believes that his husband is alive, and what she does to keep the men who want to marry her, like, back, she used to say, like, okay, I'm knitting this, I don't know, like bed sheet, I don't know what was it, but when I finish it, then I'll let you know who is going to be my husband. So she used to do it in the morning, but she would undo the work at night just to keep it going as long as possible, because of course she was very loyal. Like, her husband was not there for years, and she didn't even know if the husband was alive or not, but she was loyal to him. And meanwhile, Homero was like traveling around the sea, trying to come back home, but you know, he's a man, so he wants to have sex some here and there, and of course he's a man, so he has a right to do that, right? So that happens when he gets to Circe's land. Of course, like, he starts stay kind of in love with her. That's what I mean, kind of in love with her, but also, like, of course they were having sex, right? So they have, well, Circe gets pregnant, but he doesn't know it, of course. Then he leaves and goes back to his land that I don't know the name anymore. And Circe stays there pregnant, and she has this kid, and the kid will later on kill the father. I'm not gonna keep telling it because this video would be super long, but that's the story in general terms. So as you see, Homero was the center, and then Circe was there kind to fulfill that part of the story. But what Madeline Miller does is to say, okay, why was Circe like that? Like, there should be a more complex character that the simplistic part that they tell us, like she was crazy and she was turning men into pigs. So she develops the whole character. Like in this book, she kind of builds the character from where Circe was a baby, all the way until she grows up, until she has her first, she's in love for the first time. What was the relation with her dad? What was the relation with her mother, with her brother and her sister? So it's great in that sense that she builds the complex character, the real complex strong women that we don't get to see in the myth. Like, that's already a big win, and that's why I love the book so much. The part that I didn't like a lot is that Madeline Miller says in multiple interviews that it's a feminist Circe almost, and I don't think it is. And probably the problem with me is, like, there's a line, there's always a standard, like according to the age of humanity, there's always a standard. So for this standard, for in the time Circe was alive, of course she was a very revolutionary woman, and I'm not gonna tell you why, but she is. But then, and my problem is, maybe I'm looking at her from the standard that we have now in 2021, and that's of course a higher standard because there's a lot of women that have been building the path. Ugh, my video is always cut when I'm in the peak of my speech. But okay, so what I was saying is, yes, it's just by putting the light on the women instead of the men, that's already a good win. Just to build a more complex character than just she's a crazy woman, she turns men into pig, already a win. Like, just for those two things, I think it's such a great book and it's worth reading. The only thing I don't agree with is to sell the book as the empowering story of women, because honestly it's not. Like, Circe does evolve across the story, you do see that change, but he never reached the point in which she's not dependent to men. So again, I know we should take into account that she is shaped, her decisions are shaped by a context and historical, cultural context. However, that's fine. I just think it's not very accurate to judge the book as a top book of women empowerment that they have been selling to, because the truth is, it's not. And this is not a bad thing. I think, like, art should not be put in a box and have certain rules. I just think the way it's marketed, like sell, the way the book is sold, is not a feminist, super feminist book. Why? Because if you apply, just to make it very simple, if you make the Bechdel test to this book, it doesn't pass. Like, and for those who don't know, the Bechdel test is these 3 questions you can make just to see how much participation women have in a story. One of the questions says, first of all, there are women in the story. Of course, yes, they are in this book. Second question, do women talk to each other? Yes, they do sometimes. And then the third one, do they talk about something that's not men? That's where it breaks, because even the inner monologos is in Spanish, the inner monologos from Circe, they're always about men. She's always orbiting about men, and even though she discovers her inner power, she's always putting it to the service of a man. And I mean, that's okay. Like, I'm not expecting all the books to be feminist and pass the Bechdel test. I just think there are books that are more that pass the Bechdel test, that are more empowering about women, and this is not exactly it. It's a great book. Like, the feminist angle that they take to build the book, it's a total win. I'm not saying it's a bad book or anything, it's a great book. I just think, in my personal opinion, I would have liked Circe to be even more empowered than what is shown. But that's just my personal opinion. As I say, that doesn't mean Circe is not empowered or is not revolutionary. I was hoping for higher, you know, but it's still a really good book, so I hope you like it. It's of course totally okay to not agree with me. Please If you don't, then share it in the comments, or also follow me on Instagram. I'm arroba, or yeah, ¿qué lees, Caro? I'm gonna put it on the comments because it's in Spanish. It means what are you reading, Caro? But of course in Spanish it's a little bit more complex. So I'm gonna put it here down in the box so you can keep watching and let me know, like, if you don't like it or if you agree. That's a great conversation I would like to have. So please DM me or put me a comment, whatever you like to do. I want to listen to what do you think. Thanks for watching this video and talk to you soon. Bye.